Hello, my name is Lee Presser. This is my show. I speak frequently to very interesting people. Some of these conversations are so exciting, so intellectually stimulating, I thought others might like to listen in. This is the reason we started recording Conversation with Lee Presser.
Welcome to Conversation with Lee Presser. My guest today is Alan Dunstan, Chairman of the Board of Madison County, Illinois. Mr. Dunstan is the first and only chairman to be elected at large by the voters of Madison County. He was elected to that new position in November of 2004. Before that, chairmen were elected by the board itself. The chairman is the chief executive officer of the county government and is responsible for overseeing the daily operations of county departments and coordinating management with other countywide office holders. Mr. Dunstan appoints all department heads who manage county offices not under the control of countywide elected office holders. He presides over the meetings of the county board and appoints members to serve on the standing committees. The chairman of each committee regularly reports to the board chairman and the full board on the operations of their respective departments. We're pleased to have with us today the chairman of the Board of Madison County, Illinois, Alan Dunstan.
Good morning.
Welcome, sir. Thank you for being with us.
Lee, thank you for having me.
I'm really glad to have you here. It's been a while, I think, since you were with us last, and of course now you're in the middle of a campaign. Although I guess you can't say middle, but nowadays in this period of constant campaigning,
sure,
I guess you're in the middle of it.
Yes.
Tell me, what's been your biggest challenge as county board chairman since you were first elected in 2004, and you had been on the county board itself as a board member since
1980.
1980, okay.
Yes.
So you'd been on the board, you knew the ropes, then you became the chairman. What's been your biggest challenge?
Probably the biggest issue that we had to deal with is the levees, protecting, from the flood waters, from the rivers. Back in 2008, we had FEMA come in that was going to decertify the levees, so we had to bring them up to a 100-year level and ultimately to the 500-year level. And to do that, you had to have Madison County, St. Clair County, Monroe County working together. You had to have every city working together. You had to have the state of Illinois get on board. And it was a textbook case on the way government is supposed to work. We had Democrats and Republicans working together. And people would have, if you would have seen how we put that all together, and
in a short period of time,
in a very short period of time, and we're probably farther ahead. This is going on all over the nation. People have problems with their levees because of what happened to Katrina. We are probably farther ahead than any other group in fixing the levees. We're looking to them to be brought up to the 100-year level by the spring of 2017. And then we ultimately will get to the 500-year level, which is a protection that our residents deserve.
Now, what are the consequences of not having done this?
We would be dead in the water, so to speak.
We have
156,000 residents living down there, about 58,000 jobs. If you would not get the levees fixed, we have a gentleman down there that lives down there named Jim Pennekamp. His insurance on his flood, if you live behind a levee, you should have flood insurance. His insurance premiums would have gone up from $200 to about $2,000 a year. All the businesses down there would have had to have flood insurance. Plus, anything that was built in the future had to follow the 100-year level, so you would have to build everything up on stakes. They'd be high in the air.
Mm-hmm.
So it was an issue that you didn't have a choice. You had to get the levees fixed. And if you look at what's going on in Madison County today, most of the growth of our commercial growth in it is below the levees. You got Lakewood Commerce Center, you got Gateway Commerce Center. If you look at those two organizations there, those two groups right there, you have 5,000 jobs there that wasn't there 10 years ago. And we look at that doubling over the next 10 years. The future of the county depended on getting the levees fixed, because that's what we're looking at, logistics.
So the insurance costs would have stymied any further economic growth, is what I hear you saying. And the people who actually lived in these areas probably couldn't afford to buy the insurance to stay in their homes.
That is correct. And plus, it's not just the insurance. Once again, to come up with the building codes, if you didn't get up to the 100-year levees, none of those warehouses would have been able to be built. So we had to bring these up to the 100-year level. And once again, I can't say enough about how everyone worked together. I mean, we had Democrats and Republicans working together on this issue. Everyone knew the importance of the issue. The governor signed a law which we were able to get the quarter-cent sales tax. We were able to bond out to get the levies fixed. And we have a very good commission working on it. Once again, it's a textbook case on the way government is supposed to work.
Was there much objection to this quarter-cent sales tax in order to fund this project?
Really, there was not. I think most people realized that we had the issue, that we had to do it. One thing is it did not go to a public vote. It was done by the county board. I think we had 1 no vote in Madison County. I think St. Clair County had about 3. We had to go over and talk to Monroe County a little bit and talk to them to get them on board. But I think everybody realized it's the economic engine of the region. And if we wouldn't fix our levees, you know, we would be sitting here today with no economic growth at all. And you know, and right at the same time the levees hit, you had to understand the recession hit us. So you had a double hit in 2008, and we're just now getting back to you know, for example, our budget levels are just now back to where they were 5 years ago. So we've had to make a lot of adjustments, and right now I think we're moving in the right direction. But that's probably the number one issue that hit us.
Okay, your opponent, County Board Treasurer Kurt Prenzler, your opponent in this year's election, is quoted as saying, "You've been in county government for 35 years, and you're a product of the political machine that has controlled this county for decades." He's also quoted as saying that Democrat political machine works for its own benefit and not for the taxpayers. So my questions to you are, how do you respond to his assertion that you've been in elective office too long, and his accusation that the Democrat political machine works for its own benefit?
Yeah. First off, I believe in term limits. They're called elections, so if the people don't think I'm doing a good job, they can always vote me out of office. You know, that's the people have the right to do that. But I think I've done a tremendous job. And talking about the Democratic machine, there hasn't been a Democratic machine in Madison County for 20, 30 years. If you look back in history, when I got elected county board chairman, the first time I got elected was actually in 2002, and that was by the county board, 29 board members. And the way I got elected is I had 10 Republican votes, 7 Democratic votes. That meant there was 12 Democrats opposed to me. So the Republicans are the ones that put me in, originally put me in office. And so I think with my election and plus, you know, things that have gone in with the population, you know, the population in Madison County has shifted from the west to the east,
Right.
you know.
From the river up the bluffs.
Up the bluffs, and so I think your communities like Grant City, which is important, Venice, Madison, you know, all those areas are still important, but there's no such thing as a Democratic machine in Madison County anymore, and you know, this county is very diverse. It's you know, it's getting more and more close between Democrats and Republicans, and you know, and I have 29 board members I work with. You know, 19 Democrats, 10 Republicans. I get along with most of them. I think we have a good working experience. But you know, I think that's just propaganda that he tries to put out there, is talking about a Democratic machine. Maybe that was 40 years ago that there might have been that issue. Today, there's no machine like that.
Okay, and then you talked about you're finally getting your budget back. What is your annual budget now?
It's probably, I would say, about $130 million. That includes everything. You know, that includes the you know, federal funds you receive, state funds, things of that nature. You know, that what we deal mostly with is the general fund, of course, and what we can deal with the county. People don't realize that most of your county budget is not property tax.
Well, I was going to ask you that next. I mean, what percentage of when people get their house tax bill,
Okay.
and they're paying, say, $1,000 or $2,000. Let's just say $1,000.
Yeah.
What percentage of that $1,000 is going to the county
Okay.
compared to other taxing districts?
About $80 to $90. We get if you
Out of
if you're-
1,000.
Out of 1,000, we get 8 to 9% of a tax bill. If I figured that out correct. We get 8 to 9% of a tax bill. The school districts, of course, you know, which we want to have good schools. Usually, we receive 60 to 65% of the
So
tax
that's where
bill.
most of the money. So you're talking $600 to $650 per
Would go to-
thousand
would go to
is
the
going
school
to the
districts.
schools, and you get $80 to $90 to run the whole county.
That is correct. And you know, and the sad thing is when the county sends out the tax bill, you know, and it's got, you know, Madison County on it, people automatically think that Madison County taxes have gone up or gone down. In fact, our taxes in Madison County have gone down for the last 2 or 3 years, and, you know, our portion. And so, you know, in fact, my opponent, Kurt Prenzler, is paying less for Madison County taxes today, this year coming up, than he did 5 years ago, his portion. But his tax bill might go up. And I think he uses that a little bit and try to twist the public to make it sound like, you know, everybody's taxes are going up and it's Madison County's fault. Madison County's doing a pretty good job holding the line. And once again, I give credit, this is not just me. I have a board made up of Democrats and Republicans that are working very well together to hold the line, and I think we've done a very good job.
He has stated that if elected chairman, if Mr. Prenzler is elected chairman, he's going to lower the burden on taxpayers by reducing the county's property tax levy 10% without cutting services, upkeep, or workers' jobs. Cutting 10% of the county government portion of the homeowner's tax bill equals about how much per savings per thousand, say?
About $9. You know, I mean, it's almost, you know, it's a campaign gimmick, I call it. We've lowered our levy this last year 2.4%, so we're holding back. But we have little things out there that we're concerned about, and one is the condition of the state of Illinois right now. We do have reserves, and I'm one to tell you, we're probably in better financial shape than any other county in the state of Illinois. Once again, Democrats, Republicans working together. I'm not taking a credit for this. We're probably in better financial shape than any other county in the state of Illinois. Well, there's a lot of issues going on with the state of Illinois now. And with the state of Illinois, when they get to their budgets and they start balancing their budgets, we're concerned that they're going to be taking away our replacement tax, which is, you know, in the past in Missouri they had what they call personal property tax.
Yes.
When they did away with that in Illinois, we have what they call replacement tax. We get money from the income tax here in Illinois. Those are things that the state, if they decide to balance their budget, we're concerned that they're going to balance their budget on local, county, and city governments. And if they do that, that surplus could be wiped out in a second.
So this goes back to what you were saying before when you talked about how much money your annual budget is, because you get money from the federal government, you get money from the state government, and then you get money from the property tax, or from property taxes here in Madison County.
And be probably, if you look at the budget, probably only about 20% of our budget comes from property tax. You know, so most of the other money
Really?
comes from federal, state. Yes, that
I
low.
didn't know that.
And you know, so to go out there and just blanketly say that you're going to cut 10% is not being very reasonable. By the way, when this came up to the county board and he came out with that plan before the election, you know, before we had our last budget, even the Republican board members on the county board voted to do what we did. And so I think they understand the issue.
Now
it's easy to be a what they call a backdoor quarterback, or what's that saying that they used to say?
Monday morning
quarterback. You know, it's easy to go out there and criticize things. But when you make decisions that affect the lives of Madison County, you got to look for the future. And you don't look at just one budget year. I look at 3 to 4 to 5 budget years out to know what's going to happen with the levies going down the road. We look, for example, to having a levy cut again next year. We will probably, most likely, have a levy cut next year.
When you say levy, that's tax, right?
That's taxes.
That's the tax. That's the amount that gets multiplied by some number, and that's what determines how many dollars people are paying, right?
That's
what you mean by levy.
Yeah, and we had a lower our levy last year was lower. Our levy this year was up 2.5% lower. I look for at least a 2% levy lower this year. So we're moving in that direction, but it's if you do it over a gradual time, it's better for, you know, there's going to be some things unforeseen that might hit us that you have to plan for. And then all of a sudden, if you don't do that, what do you do when you have to all of a sudden say, oh my God, we didn't think about that, and you have to ask for a 10% levy increase? You got to really look at a 5-year projection and work things out like that. It's easy enough to come out and just say blanketly that you're going to cut 10%. You know, you just can't do that.
But you said 10% is like less than $10.
It's like, it wouldn't say
Per
the tax-
thousand.
That is correct. It doesn't say the taxpayer's a lot of money. It just sounds good. And what he does is he goes out there and says it in such a way that people think they're going to save 10% on their tax bill.
Right.
That's not
But the
true.
school districts are the
because we're
ones who
only
are getting
8 to
all the money.
9% of the tax bill.
The school districts are
That-
where the big bucks are in the property tax bill that comes to people's homes or
That is
goes
correct.
through their bank.
That is correct. So,
Now-
so it's a numbers game.
There is another issue of concern here that has been expressed about county government transferring, I guess this was in 2015, $3.2 million of excess funds into the capital projects fund instead of giving it back to the taxpayers. Now, my first question to you is, what is the capital projects fund?
Okay.
And secondly, what is the money in the capital projects fund used for?
Okay, and this is another thing he just tries to use. What we do, and we've done this for, I'd probably say that we've done this since I've been on the county board in 1980. What we do is at the end of the year, or in the general fund, is we take money and we take it to the capital projects funds. And what the capital projects funds are one-time expenditures. Could be, for the big one, of course, is like the jail issue that we're looking at doing the jail in-house. It's a we're working
That's
on
the one in
phase one.
Edwardsville you're talking about.
That is correct, the county jail. We have some issues with the jail. We don't have a sprinkler system in it. It's our cement blocks are falling apart. There's plumbing issues. There's some major issues with the jail on a maintenance standpoint. And that when we transfer money over to the capital projects, that's where that money goes. Mm-hmm. Now it's really, and the reason we take it out of the general fund, and I'll give you this little story. When I got elected, and the recession hit us, we have 300 less employees today than when I took office. I want to say that again. We have 300 less employees today than when I took office. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not really proud of that, but when the recession hit, we made the necessary cuts. And a lot of that was through attrition. There was some layoffs that we had to go through, so we've tightened our belts. Mm-hmm. Well, when we do our general fund, we have a couple of different things. We try to keep people to live within their budgets. Okay. In fact, we have a program that I think Kurt's also kind of mentioned before, is that at the end of the year, if you have, let's say, I'm just going to give you a number, $10,000 left in the end of your budget, we're willing to give you $5,000 of that if you have a special project that you could use that for in the following year's budget. The reason we did that and we set that up is, if you know how government used to work in Madison County, and I think other governments probably work like that today, if people were given a budget of $1 million, we were having all these expenditures at the end of the budget season to spend $1 million. Mm-hmm. So what we did is came up with a program to encourage people to save money in their budgets. So when they save money to their budget, it goes back to the general fund and increases the amount that we have in general funds. What we do then is transfer a lot of those savings over to the capital projects for one-time expenditures. And the reason that's great is it keeps the level of spending down, on a day-by-day basis, that departments have, and we have special projects that we're able to do that help the public.
I've seen that both in business and in government personally, where monies that aren't spent, it's like, well, okay, so we gave you $1 million, you only spent 900,000 of it, so you obviously you don't need that other 100,000 next year, and then the budget gets cut, and then the next year, of course, now you're short because you did need the full $1 million. And you're saying that this was a way to avoid this up and down.
And that's what we're doing. And once again, we look at having a levy cut again next year. I think he came out with a 10%. So if you look at last year, I think it was like a 1.5%. This year it's a 2.4. Probably next year it's going to be a 2%. Maybe to follow. You get to the point, but you do it over time instead of doing it all at once, because you got to take into consideration there's a lot of unknowns in government. The one thing I like about my job is you can go in there and sometimes you got your day planned and everything goes according to plan. And there's other days you go in there and you think, boy, this is going to be an easy day. And then all of a sudden you get hit by issue after issue after issue. And one of the biggest issues that we have right now is that we're in the state of Illinois. And we really don't know how the state is going to do their budgets. So, and give you another little...
Yeah, I was going to say, what budget?
Yeah, and see, this is a little problem that we have in Madison County. We have people that are working for Madison County right now that are working under grants from the state of Illinois. Mm-hmm. We don't have a budget. If they pass a budget and they take those grants out, I paid for those salaries, and I lose that money because that grant would not be coming. In another example, state's attorney is a state employee. He's supposed to be paid for by the state of Illinois. Madison County currently is paying his salary. I will get reimbursed for that, but it sees the issues that we're having. The state of Illinois is becoming a burden on most most county and local governments. There's a lot of concerns. In fact, I'll be up with meeting with the metro counties, which is the 15 largest counties in the state of Illinois. We'll probably be meeting within the next 2 weeks, and what we're going to be talking about is the state budget.
I remember talking with Dr. Hightower, the former superintendent of Edwardsville Schools, and this was not just a year or two ago. He was talking years ago, and he was then talking about how much money the state owed the school district, and they hadn't been paid yet, and he wasn't sure how they were going to operate. Like you, he had to cut employees, had to keep his expenses down just to keep the school district operating.
And it's tough. Give you an example. I just went recently sandbagging in Alton and talking to the mayor of Alton, and we had the water going up. They spent over $1 million on those operations, and we went through that whole thing. Well, the Alton Bell is where they get a lot of their money. I don't think they've had any payments from the state of Illinois for the last 6 months for the Alton Bell. The proceeds, and it's really and
they're not paying the lottery.
Yeah, and they're not. If you win a lottery in the state of Illinois, you don't get the full amount. I mean, they're already talking. I don't know if you've seen an article in the paper. They're already talking now. A couple of different issues. If you have a license, the license plates. You have to get your stickers. I ain't sending not notices for those anymore. I think that's going to catch a lot of people off guard, because people just automatically, when they get that notice, they go ahead and pay their sticker fee and they send it in. I, like everyone else, you almost have to make an effort to go out and check to see when your sticker license is due, because you don't want to be late on them. But they're making a lot of cuts on the state level that are really affecting the county also.
I want to ask, this is more serious. Fred Bathon is a person that you and I have known for many, many years. At one time he was the auditor of Madison County, and then he moved over into the treasurer's office. And he was convicted in the federal court of having done things that were not right.
That is correct.
And that there were people who were being cheated by his manipulations. What did you know about that at the time when it was going on?
I don't think anybody knew anything about it. Basically the tax sale, I've seen one tax sale since that all happened, and it was actually one where they automated it to check it. You
mean under Mr. Prenzler's?
Under Prenzler's, yes. Yeah. And so the tax sale itself was, I don't think anyone even knew about it. And what's funny about it is Mr. Prenzler uses this as a issue, that we all knew something about it. Well, he did a deposition. In his deposition, he admits that he thought what Fred Bathon did was unethical, but he didn't think it was anything illegal. When he thought it was illegal is when the News Democrat did their editorial about, and that's after Frank Miles, who was the treasurer, lowers the amount
after Mr. Bathon
After
left.
Bathon, he automates, or not automates, but has a reverse bid, lowers the thing, and then he puts it out on the internet that it went from 18, all of a sudden went down to 7 or whatever, and then the News Democrats started to ask questions. Well, why did that happen? That's when people found out it was conspiracy, and that's when everyone, including myself, Kurt, whatever, he likes to take credit that he's the one that found it. No, he wasn't. Back when he ran the first time, he says it, but he said, but if you look at his deposition, he says it was unethical to take money from taxpayers for his campaign. No one saw anything illegal that he was doing, and nobody is going to sit here. At least I'm certainly not going to sit here and defend Fred Bathon. What Fred did was wrong, and he paid the price. He ended up going to federal prison. He lost his pension. He ultimately has paid the price for what he has done. But I think what Kurt would like to do is try to attach all the other elected officials to Fred Bathon.
That's what I was going to say. There seems to be some people who would like to say that, well, you should have known.
Yeah.
And so I'll say to you, well, should you have known? Should other officials have known what Fred Bathon was doing? In your opinion, should you have known?
No, because what happens with the tax sale is it's an in-house thing. I don't get involved in the treasurer's office. I set the treasurer's budget. I couldn't tell you today what Kurt does in his office, okay? I sit the circuit clerk's office. I sit the sheriff's office, you know,
The budget.
And then once they get their budget set, you know, that's the way it works.
These are
you
called
know.
constitutional
They're
officers.
called-
They
have-
run their own little
They-
kingdom there that
That is correct.
you as county board chairman, any county board chairman doesn't have a say what the treasurer does, what the auditor does, what the sheriff does.
And that is correct. And if you look at the court, what the court says, it was a conspiracy between Fred Bathon and the tax buyers. Well, conspiracy means that it's secret. You know, this is something that Fred and the tax buyers did together. It was, you know, nobody knew it was going on. Nobody knew it was an issue until the News Democrat did their article, and then the News Democrat started looking into it. Then they had the FBI come looking into it, and of course, at that time, Fred got charged, and I think 3 or 4 tax buyers got charged on it also. Now, you know, another thing that Kurt and I disagree with on is we think the people were done wrong, and we think there should be restitution for these people, okay? But it shouldn't be the county. The county did nothing wrong. You know, the county, you know, Fred did something wrong, and the taxpayers did something wrong. What we would like to see is that, you know, and we love to see that those people get sued, and that the tax buyers and Fred Bathon go after his assets, pay for all the damages done for people that have the problem with this issue. Kurt kind of wants to see the county bail these people out. Well, we're not the ones that caused the problem. We did not do anything illegal. Fred did something illegal.
So the taxpayers would be
paying the bill.
Right.
And I don't think that's right. I think the taxpayers did not cause this problem. They're not the ones that should be punished. The people that caused the problem were Fred Bathon and the taxpayer buyers that made the gains. Go after the people that made the gains to make restitution, and we could back that. And we think the people out there should be restituted.
In the last minute that we have here, and we're really down to that now, is there anything that you wanted to say to the people who are listening to this?
You know, one thing I will like to say, and I think we discussed this in the past, is that we're not like the federal government, we're not like the state government, you know, where you have a lot of party differences here in Madison County. In Madison County, we work pretty well as a team. And when I say as a team, Democrats, Republicans working together. I certainly don't want to see what's happening on a state level and on a federal level come down to a local level. We are probably in better financial shape than any county in the state of Illinois. We're totally debt-free. Yes, we have reserves, but believe me, I think the state of Illinois would love to have some reserves right now. I'm a fiscal conservative, as you know. We've talked about this in the past, and we just try to hold our things together, and I think overall we're doing a pretty good job, and I think I do deserve to be reelected.
Thank you very much for being with us today. And to the folks who have been listening to this, I've been speaking with Alan Dunstan. He is the chairman of the board of Madison County, Illinois. This program is going to be uploaded to YouTube, so those of you who didn't see all of it or would like to show it to somebody else, just go to YouTube, look up Conversation with Lee Presser, Alan Dunstan, and you'll find it. We'll see you next week. Thank you.